Hello and welcome. My name is Tanya Rux. I am currently a student enrolled in the Provincial Instructor Diploma Program, course number 3230, Evaluation of Learning, that is instructed by Glenn Gailey. I will be introducing a classroom assessment technique that I have found to be very useful. The technique is CAT number 25, Student Generated Test Questions. It can be found on page 240 of the text Classroom Assessment Techniques, a handbook for college teachers. The classroom assessment technique, Student Generated Test Questions, is a technique that is utilized in assessing and improving student learning. It is one of the very best ways for a student to find out how well they understand the material they are studying. The principle that drives this technique is allowing the facilitation of the benefit of experience by engaging students in developing test questions and model answers. Student-generated test questions allow faculty to assess at least 3 aspects of student learning. In these questions, teachers see what their students consider the most important or memorable content, what they understand as fair and useful test questions, and how well they can answer the questions they have posed. This information not only provides a direction for teaching, but can also alert the teacher when students have inaccurate expectations about upcoming tests. Student-generated test questions can be used in any course in which students take tests. By generating test questions, students can learn what aspects of the course they understand and what aspects they do not understand. When students suggest test questions and try to predict the actual test questions, they are in effect beginning to prepare in useful ways for the upcoming tests. This assessment is best administered 2 or 3 weeks before a major test, such as a midterm or a final examination, to allow for time and for appropriate feedback and adjustments in teaching and studying. This classroom assessment technique can help avoid unpleasant surprises. When faculty read student questions, they gain useful information on the class's expectations. As students get feedback on questions they've written, the instructor's plans for the test can become much more clearer. With careful planning, this CAT can be used to generate questions that students can use in reviewing for their tests and that faculty can modify to include in the tests. Instructors must be sure to let students know in advance whether the test will make use of any of the questions they generate. If the test does not draw directly on student questions, students need feedback on how closely their questions will parallel the kinds of questions they will see on their exam. Many students will have no experience in writing test questions. As a result, their efforts might be quite poor. The less experienced students, the more direction and feedback they are going to need. And because some students will be disappointed if you do not use their questions on the tests, an instructor must be willing to include or revise student questions in the test, or at least to let the students know what kind of questions will be included. Some of the best practices for this classroom assessment technique, student-generated test questions, require the instructor to focus on a test or exam that is at least 3 weeks to a month away. The instructor must decide what types of questions, on what specific topics you want the students to generate. You must decide how many questions you want the students to generate. 1 or 2 types of questions are usually enough, especially if you would like the students to supply the answers. You will need to explain what you want the students to do, why you want them to do it, and explain how their questions will be used and when they will receive feedback. If you are working with students who are planning to become teachers, give them more feedback on the way they ask the questions and the kinds of questions they asked. Engage them in critiquing and revising the questions. Many students, particularly those in introductory courses, may find it easier to generate questions if they work in pairs or small groups. In large classes, you may want to assign specific topics or units to certain groups of students. It is most definitely useful to prepare a handout of student-generated test questions from the past for the test review and offer suggestions on how to best prepare for it. Because this is likely to be a very demanding assessment, you may need to offer students some course credit for completing it. The student-generated test question assessment can be reasonably substituted for a homework assignment.